Hello everyone. Let's take a look at an example of how to use the law of sines. So I would like to solve this triangle, meaning I want to find all the missing information out about this. So I have an angle here to find, and then I have the two side lengths. First, if I take a look at the information I do know in the triangle, I have two angles, and then I have one side length here. So the way that this is laid out, this is sort of the angle side situation, and that allows us to use the law of sines. So first thing, I think we can find this missing angle. To do that, we can just use the triangle sum theorem. So let's take 180 and we'll subtract away our other two angles, 103 minus 35. So we get an angle measure here for C of 42 degrees. Okay, so now that we know that, we can use the law of sines to find our missing two side lengths. So I do have one pair here. I have angle B and the side across from that. So if I think about how my law of sines is laid out, I know that it is the sine of an angle, the side across from that one, and the sine of another angle, the side across from that. I have four variables in here. I need to know 3 out of the 4. So here's an angle, the side across from that. Here's another angle of 35 for angle A. And then the side across from that, that would be the one missing piece of information. So that gives us the sine of 35. The side across from that is A, which is the one we're going to find. And then we have our one pair that we do know, the sine of 103. And the side across from that one is 20. Now the law of sines, this is a proportion, so we can use our cross product to simplify this a little bit. So we have 20 times the sine of 35, and that is equal to A times the sine of 103. And then to solve for A, since we are multiplying by the sine of 103, let's divide by the sine of 103 to isolate that. So then we get this expression for A. 20 times the sine of 35 divided by the sine of 103. Now this is something that we need to use our calculator for. You just need to be careful on how you type this in. When you hit the sign button, it will open up a set of parentheses, so make sure that you close that. You want your calculator to do the order of operations correctly. So our side length BC is about 11.8. Okay, we have one more piece of information to find, this last side. Now, I think the easiest way to do that is just to use the law of sines again. We are still going to use our one pair that we know here, but in this case, we're going to switch and we're going to use the 42 for angle C. So we have the angle sine of 42, and the side across from that is C. And we'll set that equal to the sine of 103, and the sine across from that one is 20. So just as we did for A, we'll do the cross product. And we have 20 times the sine of 42, C times the sine of 103, and dividing by the sine of 103, so we end up with something very similar to what we had earlier, but we do have a different angle measure in there now. So that's going to be side AB, and let's see what we get. 20 times the sine of 42 divided by the sine of 103. We end up with about 13.7. So there's all of our missing information about this triangle. Now, one thing we can do just to make sure that everything seems to make sense, we know that smaller sides are across from smaller angles, bigger sides are across from bigger angles. So 103 is the biggest angle, that means 20 needs to be the biggest side. 35 here is our smallest one, so across from that we need A to be the smallest, which we ended up with 11.8, so it is. So at least our triangle makes sense.